I have spent my entire life studying money, where it comes from, where it goes, and how quickly even the strongest promises can collapse under the weight of unrealistic expectations. Today, there's a new promise sweeping across America, a proposal of a $2,000 dividend for every working and middle-class American citizen, a financial lifeline, a relief check, a return of wealth taken from foreign nations through tariffs. That is the message, a bold message. A message that sounds like hope, but hope is not revenue. Hope does not pay bills. Hope cannot be printed into prosperity. Let me tell you something that decades in this business have taught me. Money is never free. And when a government says, we will give you $2,000 and it won't cost you a thing, you should not celebrate instantly. You should pause. You should investigate. You should ask, where will the money actually come from? Because every dollar has to come from somewhere. And in this case, that somewhere is tariffs. Tariffs have been sold as a magic solution, a way to make foreign competitors pay while American families reap the rewards. But tariffs are not foreign aid. They do not come out of the pockets of other nations. They come from importers, from us businesses, and eventually from everyday consumers who pay higher prices at checkout. When a politician says tariffs have brought in trillions, that sounds powerful. But independent analysts, including the Tax Foundation, have made it clear tariff revenue collected has been closer to $120 billion total. Meanwhile, this proposed payout, with eligibility capped near $100,000 in household income, could cover 150 million adults, costing around $300 billion instantly. Let me repeat that. The total amount collected is less than half of what is required for this one single distribution. And if children are included, the gap climbs much higher. That is not politics. That is math, and math has no allegiance, no bias, no loyalty to any political agenda. Yet the excitement spreads. People begin to count their dividend before it exists. They imagine it hitting their bank account tomorrow. They book expenses ahead of time. They make plans for money that has not yet been funded, not yet structured, not yet legally approved. And deep within that excitement, a dangerous vulnerability appears, because nothing in these announcements contains clarity, no timeline, no eligibility list, no mechanism, not even confirmation whether Congress needs to approve it or whether the courts will allow it. This isn't a plan yet, it's an idea. A headline, a promise, a possibility, not a guarantee. And when a nation starts celebrating possibilities as if they were certainties, financial reality begins to fracture beneath their feet. I've seen that fracture before, and it always spreads. Promises like these are powerful because they feel personal. $2,000 for you. Those words create instant loyalty, instant excitement, but ideas cannot be spent like dollars. And the harsh truth is this: right now, the plan is missing the foundation required to make it real. The administration's own press secretary confirmed this, saying they are exploring all legal options and that there is no timeline. That is not the language of a confirmed program. That is the language of brainstorming. Treasury officials have floated possibilities. It could come as a check or as tax reductions. No tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips. They are searching for delivery methods because the structure does not yet exist. This isn't execution, it's speculation. Meanwhile, legal challenges loom, and these aren't minor lawsuits from fringe voices. This involves the Supreme Court of the United States. The core question: does the executive branch have the authority to impose broad tariffs as a revenue generator without Congress? Because raising revenue, that is the constitutional power of Congress. The administration has argued that these tariffs are about national security, not revenue. Yet public messaging highlights the profits, the payouts, the dividends. When messaging and legal arguments conflict, structure collapses. The Supreme Court has already shown clear skepticism. 3 hours of probing whether these tariffs stretch beyond presidential power. 3 hours questioning whether an emergency law written decades ago can justify a sweeping economic transformation today. If the court rules against the tariffs, much of this policy could unravel instantly, retroactively, with cascading financial consequences. So think carefully. If the funding source is in legal danger, if the revenue projections are disputed, if the math does not yet add up, how can anyone claim the checks are coming on a specific date, like December 2025, as rumors have suggested? You cannot set a holiday countdown clock for money that has not been authorized, funded, or approved by law. I have seen countless times when economic hope was built on political timing, coming before midterms, coming this holiday season, coming when people need it most. Political timing creates urgency, but urgency does not create funding, and without funding, promises remain headlines, not bank deposits. People deserve transparency, not confusion, not shifting answers, not rough estimates, because when financial expectations rise without support, disappointment becomes anger, and anger becomes instability. A nation cannot afford instability right now, not with its debt where it is, not with global pressures mounting, not with households already broken by inflation and rising interest costs. America needs real solutions, not rushed excitement, not premature celebration, and certainly not dependence on money that may never arrive. Let me teach you a simple investing principle that applies perfectly here. Never count profits until they exist, because if you spend money before you receive it, you are already in debt, psychologically and financially. Millions of families are emotionally spending this dividend. That is the real danger. People imagine groceries, rent, Christmas presents, medical bills finally being paid, and that hope, the hope of finally catching up, makes them vulnerable, because if that hope collapses, their budget collapses with it. The moment a government says, "We will pay you from tariffs," a critical question must follow. What if tariffs start decreasing instead of increasing? Tariff revenue depends on imports. If imports fall, revenue drops. And what makes imports fall? Higher tariffs. The very mechanism intended to generate the money could simultaneously restrict it. That's not finance. That's a paradox. Even if tariffs continue, economists warn that the cost doesn't disappear. It transfers. When businesses pay more to bring goods into America, they raise prices. The everyday citizen pays that difference. The very person receiving the $2,000 dividend could secretly pay far more than $2,000 in higher costs over time. A gift that costs more than its value isn't a gift. It's an illusion. And while tariff revenue has helped strengthen us leverage in global trade discussions, using those funds for recurring cash distributions shifts the purpose. It transforms economic protection into political benefit. And that transformation introduces risk, because financial programs built on shifting political power are the least stable programs in history. The American people should absolutely demand support. Hardworking families deserve relief, but relief that is sustainable, relief that is funded responsibly, relief that doesn't create more hidden costs than visible benefits. There is another concern, national debt. The same plan claims that leftover funds, after sending out dividends, will be used to reduce debt. But you cannot reduce debt and fund massive payouts simultaneously. Not if the revenue source is already insufficient. That is like trying to fill 2 leaking buckets with 1 cup of water. When a government frames a policy as both generous and fiscally responsible, be cautious. Economic reality rarely allows both at once. So here is what I urge every citizen to understand. This proposal might evolve into something real, or it may remain a message designed to excite. There is nothing wrong with hope, but hope must be paired with caution. The most dangerous financial mistake people make is trusting headlines instead of understanding the numbers behind them. As someone who has managed trillions across decades, let me give you clarity. A real policy includes Thuy legislation, Thuy funding mechanism, Thuy legal authority, Thuy timeline, Thuy delivery method, Thuy eligibility criteria. This proposal currently includes things confirmed, and until they are confirmed, no one should make a single financial decision based on this promise. Not one yet. Even with this uncertainty, the emotional force of the proposal is undeniable. People love the idea of getting rewarded from foreign competition. Love the idea of America growing rich while adversaries pay the price. Love the idea of their pocket growing thicker without taxes growing higher. But the world is not that simple. Every international shift has consequences. Every tariff changes a supply chain somewhere. Every new economic frontier creates a new risk sector. And every grand financial promise without structure creates the possibility of widespread disappointment. The court will rule, economists will calculate, Congress will debate, and the truth will reveal itself. But until the dust settles, the wisest thing any American can do is maintain discipline. Don't plan for money you do not yet have. Don't assume victory before the score is final, and don't build your future on a foundation still under construction. Financial survival belongs to those who prepare, not those who wait to be rescued. If the $2,000 arrives, fantastic. Use it wisely. Save it if you can. Strengthen your position. If it does not arrive, at least you protected yourself. That is not fear. That is responsibility. History rewards the prepared. It always has. And in times like these, the prepared do not panic. They prosper.